From London, this is the Standard Podcast, and I'm Mark Blunden. I'm outside the Treasury on horse guards, focusing on that critical of issues, the pound in your pocket.
Given the state of the public finances, there's not a lot of money, not a lot of many billions sloshing around for easy tax cuts. So what they're doing, they're promising more jam tomorrow if you vote for the Conservatives.
The Evening Standard's reporting on Wednesday that London households' disposable income is set to rise by £110 on average this year. That's including national insurance cuts and these stealth taxes we've been hearing about. But it comes as millions of people in England, Wales and Northern Ireland face paying basic or high rate tax for the first time. People living in the wider southeast of England, which includes the capital's commuter belt, will be hardest hit by a combination of fiscal changes. And it comes as Professor Tony Travers of the London School of Economics warns Tories risk a near-death experience in London following a shock poll showing them having 0 MPs in the capital after the general election. Professor Travers says the rise of Reform UK now meant the Conservatives could lose a string of what were relatively safe seats in outer London. To make sense of it all, we're joined inside Parliament by the Evening Standard's political editor, Nicholas Cecil. Nick, what's the latest you're reporting on Wednesday regarding Jeremy Hunt's national insurance plans?
The Evening Standard has got some figures from the House of Commons Library that they were obtained by the Liberal Democrats about the impact of the Chancellor's stealth taxes and the cuts to national insurance combined on London and other parts of the country. And these make very interesting reading. And for example, if you look at London, the stealth taxes being imposed by the Chancellor, and when I say stealth taxes, it's very much the freezes on the thresholds at which you pay income tax and national insurance. Well, London is the hardest hit area in the country. So these stealth taxes are going on over 6 years, and by 2027-28, the average household in London will see their disposable income hit by £1,580 a year. So it's a big hit from these stealth taxes. But the Chancellor also cut 2p off the rate of national insurance in the autumn statement, and then did exactly the same thing in the budget. And London actually benefits quite well from these cuts. And so if you're looking at the fiscal year 2024-25, on average, London households will see their disposable income go up by £110. And so this is the region of the country that benefits most from these cuts in national insurance. But it's not such good news for the wider southeast, which obviously includes London commuter belt. That is the reason why that is because the national insurance cuts benefit people who are working, and London has a young population, fewer pensioners compared to other regions in the country, and also salaries, wages are higher in London than other regions generally. So what this means is that Londoners generally pay more tax, but when there's a tax cut, then they benefit more in cash terms because that they have higher salaries. So if you look, for example, in the wider southeast outside London, if you look at the combination of the national insurance cuts and the stealth taxes, by 2027-28, the average disposable income for households will be £410 lower, and that compared for London, where the figure is £230. So the hardest hit is the southeast, followed by the southwest, where the blow is £400 a year.
And Jeremy Hunt's been using this phrase about national insurance abolition of overtime. What does he mean by overtime?
I think they're trying to promise future tax cuts. The problems for the Conservatives is that all the polls suggest that they're not going to be in power after the election, which we expect in the autumn. So Mr. Hunt can promise all what he likes. He can signal a direction of travel, but what he's saying at the moment is unlikely to happen.
How much of a hand grenade is this likely to be for his successor should Labour get into power?
Well, the problem facing both Labour and the Conservatives after the election is that the public spending situation will be extremely tight. There'll be very, very little money to go around. So certainly independent economists at the Institute for Fiscal Studies are saying that neither party is being completely upfront with voters about the size of the squeeze on public sector finances coming down the line. And so it's looking very difficult after the election.
Let's go to the ads. Coming up, warnings from a leading political scientist that the Conservatives face a near-death experience in London. Why not hit follow? In the meantime, give us a rating. We're all used to paying national insurance in our wages and seeing that deduction on the payslip. It's a very common sight to everyone, and we sort of calibrate ourselves to that, working out our take-home pay. So any change in this is going to be huge. Is there any indication from the Conservatives in terms of what the new system would look like?
Not hugely at the moment, but assuming that it's going to be tax neutral, or that even if you're making some cuts, you can't basically make all that for free, then you might have to raise money elsewhere. And the big ways you can raise money is by increasing income tax, for example, and that would mean that people would pay more tax on unearned income. Obviously, the Conservatives aren't saying that, but that would be the suspicion that if you're having a shift away from taxes on work, some of it will go more onto property and other investments.
Is this a legacy issue for Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak in a way?
I think it's potentially to some degree a legacy issue. I think it's more is that we've got an election coming down the line very fast, and that the Conservatives are trying to find a way of offering something to appeal to voters. Given the state of the public finances, there's not a lot of money, many billions sloshing around for easy tax cuts. So what they're doing, they're promising more jam tomorrow if you vote for the Conservatives.
Nick, you've been interviewing LSE's Professor Tony Travers about the Conservatives' political health in London. What's he been telling you?
He looked at this poll, which has come out in recent days, which astonishingly showed the Conservatives winning 0 seats at the general election, which is absolutely startling. He says that the poll shows that the Tories could be facing, in his words, a near-death experience in the capital. And what's changed in recent weeks and months is that central London, the Tory seats in central London have for quite a while now been looking under threat from Labour, and partly because of Brexit and for other reasons. So in central London, the Tories looked like they had a real battle to hold on to many of their seats. But now, because of the rise of Reform UK on the right of the Tories, they could be taking more votes in outer London. And so suddenly what were previously safe Tory seats in outer London, like Bromley and Chislehurst, Harrow East, Beckenham and so on, so some of these seats suddenly look quite marginal. So we had this poll recently, an MRP poll. This is a specific type of poll which basically does interviews, 15,000 people, breaks down the voters into various demographic sections and then tries to translate them back into the various constituencies. So it's a new kind of polling, seen as helpful, but it's not a constituency by constituency poll. So there's a slight question over it. Professor Tony Travers, an expert in London politics from the London School of Economics, he thinks it's unlikely that the Tories will end up with 0 seats in London. But even if they get down to just a few seats, a handful, the view is that would be bad for London politics because Labour would be so dominant in the city, with a number of Liberal Democrat MPs also in southwest London.
And did Professor Travers give you any sort of indication about what more the Conservatives might have to do to cling on at all, or is that it now for one election cycle?
What he believes the Conservatives should do is that they should set up a London Conservative Party, similar to the Conservatives have in Scotland, where they've got a Scottish Conservative Party, which has a bit more leeway to distance itself and do different things from the National Party. The problem the Conservatives face at the moment is that they're trying to appeal to many voters in the Red Wall with kind of hardline messages on immigration and including on highlighting what they say are the benefits of Brexit. But those messages don't go down very well in London, or certainly in lots of parts of London. So the Conservatives, they're having to fight on 2 fronts now. So they've got Reform UK on the right, they've got Labour and Liberal Democrats on the left, and it is looking very difficult for Rishi Sunak at the next election.
There's much more on this story in the Evening Standard newspaper and online at standard.co.uk. We're back on Thursday at 4 p.m.